All right, welcome back, guys. Now, like I had said prior, we had just wrapped up with the article summary. Now we're going to be looking at the importance of the article, the impact of the article, and the application. Now, I will say a lot of those three elements, the importance, impact, and application, were covered in the results. A lot of those results that talked about communication, that talked about more student-centered synchronous use of the synchronous time, things like properly utilizing the virtual classroom features are important and have impact. And I'm going to cover that a little bit more in these next slides. So, kind of what struck me as some of the importance of this was establishing and maintaining lines of communication using multiple modalities. Communication was a thing that was constantly brought up in the results. Letting students know that you were there for them is obviously important because communication is not just student teacher teacher student. We also need to be, as educators, be able to foster student student interaction or student small group interaction or student whole class interaction. Now, in a synchronous setting, this can be done using video chat features, chat room features, breakout room features, but this can also be done in discussion forums in an asynchronous setting or using some other virtual tools in an asynchronous setting. Using the virtual learning space as an opportunity or a space for communication, because that's really how community is built, around communication. Um, Another huge importance was limiting that direct instruction. Even though teachers often in a synchronous setting or synchronous asynchronous blended setting have very limited time for instruction, especially in Baltimore County, we have very limited time for instruction. The teachers here still emphasized planning time for things like small group instruction or peer-peer interaction or even time for informal, more social discussions. These instructors and best practices said that for adult learners, and I'm sure this extends to student learners as well, in order for students to learn, they need to feel as though they're part of the community, and that's worth utilizing the time in the classroom to do. Another really great quote that came from this that really resonated with me was, in order to support students' sense of community more fully, instructors must be aware of the nature of student engagement in the program in which they teach. This means, that teacher is, or the instructors are the real community builders, and because they're the ones who have the most connection with the students. And in order for teachers to do that, teachers need to be more aware of what the students are doing in a cohort or what they're doing as a whole or what they're doing as part of the instructional institution. Teachers need to be more aware of what the students are doing outside of the classroom in the academic setting. That can really help a teacher build community. That means teachers need to be more aware of what's going on in the school or what's going on in their institutional learning or what's going on in the student learning community, especially in a cohort. It can be really helpful for the teacher to know if have the students had an opportunity to work with one another before, what classes have they taken before, where are they in the cohort. Those are all things that can really help a teacher foster a stronger sense of community and student engagement. Another important thing was mastering the learning management system and virtual classroom features. One of the main results came from, if you know how to properly utilize the chat room features, the breakout room features, or many of the other features that these technologies have, you can do a better job of not only building community, but engaging students, giving students an opportunity to show their social presence and to be authentic in the learning space. Teachers need to know, well, where can students have a space to share videos? Where can they have a space to share their documents? Where can they have a space to just interact with one another? You need to know those features and plan with those features in mind. You need to be able to develop your lessons around those features to help foster student involvement. And then that kind of comes with, there needs to be professional learning associated with that as well. Let's go to the impact. Now, one of the impacts was how critical a synchronous element was to digital learning. Now, I know not all teachers or all learning spaces have the opportunity to do this. In some of these asynchronous settings, it's just not part of their curriculum. But this research showed and was presented that that if you can have even some synchronous setting within your digital learning space, it can really help foster communication. Even if it's just an informal Q&A or informal discussion between peers and you make it optional, this digital learning the community of the digital learning space can really be brought together when everyone has a one-time meeting, one-time face-to-face, because again, that helps put the face to the student and helps give the students a stronger social presence. Another impact was purposeful planning of community building. This isn't going to always happen naturally. Instructors need to put into their lesson planning and unit planning and long-term planning how they're going to foster community building. Another thing I found interesting was even for adult learners, how important social presence and community building was. This has huge implications for school leaders, not only from a classroom standpoint, but when you're developing distance-based professional learning, which we may have to be doing soon, we need to be thinking about community building there. Lastly was helping students be authentic in the classroom. We want students to be able to be themselves and share alternative points of view and share their culture and how their lives have affected their learning and their point of view. There needs to be time for educators to allow for that type of discussion in order to help build better community and help students build their social presence. Here was another great quote that I wanted to put in here. You can take time to pause it and read it. But it really goes to show that teachers, by altering the structure of teaching activities or by altering the structure of their curriculum or course design, can really help foster social interaction. Now for the application. Now there are multiple applications for this, but like I said in the previous slide, the application for this can be seen in both classroom instruction or virtual learning space instruction for adolescent or secondary learners, for me as a secondary teacher, or because these are adult learners in a doctoral program, professional learning development that takes place distance-based. The application of multimodal communication. When I think about this as well, what are the different safe means for me to communicate with my students that makes it interactive, that makes it engaging, that gives them a chance to be themselves, that gives them a chance to express themselves in both a synchronous and asynchronous setting? How can teachers maintain this line of communication through emails, discussion boards, being active in both of those settings, scheduling time to meet with students or having virtual office hours are all great ways to foster communication. Another huge application of this is addressing social, emotional, and academic needs of learners. We had read in previous modules that learners in a distance-based setting have more than academic needs. We need to plan in our instruction, and many of the strategies that were addressed in this research show how can we support our students socially and emotionally. We need to give them a chance to express themselves and to have a chance to communicate with one another. Whether you're an adult or you're a secondary learner, you have social needs, and distance-based education needs to meet those social needs as well. Another huge application was use of course design to help increase student interaction and community building. As educators, we can design our classroom, our virtual learning space, whether it's an asynchronous space or our LMS, to help foster community interaction. This can be through flipped classroom, providing time and space for social learning or social presence development in a synchronous and asynchronous time period, and also purposeful planning of student-student interaction and facilitating that. This also comes with modeling some of those as well. Lastly, one of the huge applications is teachers and instructors need time to explore and learn how to properly utilize the features of their LMS and virtual learning spaces or virtual classrooms. Teachers need to be trained on all the tools that can help foster community building. We can't just be taught how to use the space to push out assignments and to grade assignments and to share feedback. Obviously, all of those are important, but we need to learn the tools of either video chat features, discussion board features, and learn them in depth to really help foster community building. We can really use some of these tools are excellent, like these breakout rooms, a lot of features many teachers don't know because they've never been trained on how to use breakout rooms or have been trained to use some of these really interesting features in the chat room. If proper professional development is designed to not only share these resources, but also share how can they be used to develop community. I think these are huge, huge applications of this research and could be a great platform for future research, um, especially when it comes to, again, the student perception of this. And lastly, here's the reference for it. I use APA citation of it. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you have any questions, you can see my email on some of my other presentations. Please watch some of my other YouTube videos if you have questions about e-learning or if you have questions about mathematics. I would be excellent and would love to interact with you about it. Have a wonderful rest of the day. I hope to see all of you very soon in a safe setting. I'm going to go have some gumbo now. So catch you guys later.